Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Human Responsibilities Tribunal. I'm Limina, and today we have an excellent show. But first, I want to say, wow, was that an amazing show yesterday I had with Andre, where we talked about the reclamation of the family, bringing it back. How do we put it back together? How do we overcome the industrial machine trying to break families apart. And I thought there's a lot of good information on there, and I think there's definitely a part two to come. Also, our gardening series is coming again. We'll be doing a part two with David on the riffraff, and another part two on psychedelics, why we don't want those in the government's hands. Here, we have a long history of government misuse, and so it's not necessarily a good thing. So we're going to take a look at the spirit of a community, how to build spirituality, um, within our community and keeping that modality out of the government and the medical industrial complex's hands. But today we have part two, the follow up with Matt, who was on the show previously, talking about his court case against the EI, which is Employment Insurance of Canada. And he was helping his uncle, Dale, who is actually here today, the actual human behind the court case. And they're coming to talk about what happened at the court case when they presented. So one of the big things about Matt and Dale that we don't usually see in cases like this is they don't have a lawyer. They're representing themselves. So they're doing all the legalese by themselves. And so that was one of the things that really caught my eye. So welcome back, Matt, and nice to meet you, Dale.
Hi.
Thank you. Good
Thanks
to be
for
back.
having us on.
So Dale, we haven't heard from you before. So why don't you just give us a little background on what's happening here for you?
Well, in the beginning, so I worked at Purelator for over 30 years, and
Okay.
I'm actually the first person at Purelator to find a policy on their workforce app that they were going to implement this. And so I started questioning it, started telling other people, and they decided to go ahead with it. And as I kept questioning the narrative, especially to the president of the company or the CEO of the company, I eventually got kicked off of there. And then somebody reached out to me, a union member, to form a group to fight this. And we tried, and the union didn't support us. And it's still going on, actually, after 4 years, still trying to arbitrate the whole policy. And some people got their jobs back, but it took over a year and a half to get their jobs back, which took in less than 6 months. But Purelator, again, even up till today, is still fighting against us. So anyway, on January 10th, 2022, I was locked out of my company. I protested for 2 months in minus 30-degree weather, even during the convoy time that actually drove by our building, which was a funny episode too. And I applied for EI in that month and was denied based on the grounds of misconduct, even though my policy said, the policy said that I was put on a leave of absence. And so then from Purelator, how do you say it? Put the wrong code on my ROE forms has led me to where I am today. And I've had to appeal 3 or 4 times. I've been denied every time. And I don't want to say corruption. I want to say that they actually, all the way to the federal level, they do not want to look at our findings. We've put multiple errors in facts into our findings. Thousands of hours Matthew has put into helping me, and we are still denied. Now, we're not denied based on our facts. We're denied based on whatever, how do
I guess
on
process engineering.
right, on whatever processes they're doing. That's what we're being denied on, and that's what we're revealing to every Canadian who wants to listen. We are not crazy. They're trying to make out like we're crazy and that we've broken the law somehow, or we don't deserve to get our money. It's not. It's that they don't want to look at our facts and show that they're not following the proper processes. They've created new processes, I guess, that are not, have not been introduced by law in the proper way.
Hmm.
So anyway, so now we have two roads to go down, and we're going to go down both, which is to appeal their decision plus put an application in for the Supreme Court.
Okay.
That was pretty quick, right?
So let's go back here for a second and just define some things. What is an ROE for people who might not be from Canada or might not have ever touched on this process? You said you put in an ROE. Can you tell me how that works? Because that seems to be part of the crux of the lawsuit that you brought.
The ROE is a record of an employment which the company has to put in within 5 to 10 days of you losing your employment, and it's mandatory, and it has to be correct, and they would put down your actual income for the last so many weeks. I can't remember how many. I think it's like 35 weeks, but don't quote me on that. And they have to put for the reason why you're off and whether you're coming back to work, and it has to be signed, which means it has to be legal, and it's the only document ever that actually has to be signed as true. And when they
So
put
that
that
means
in,
the employer has an awful lot of well, the only say. They have the only input in going forward with anything on the ROE.
correct. So they put in that information, and then I can accept it or dispute it and ask for an investigation into it. And I guess that's the process I've been going through. And so now employment insurance does not want to investigate whether that ROE is true or not.
That's part of
Right.
this massive scandal. Is the record of employment is strictly filled out by the employer, and it is certified under Section 398 of the Criminal Code, where every person signing it admits that if they put the wrong information, they can be criminally charged.
But nobody ever pursues that. We had something like that in our family, with just trying to, again, under
Different.
the mandate, under the mandates, different is like the employer seems to be the only person that fills anything out for long-term or short-term employment about what you actually do at work. And if they lie or misspeak or anything, it doesn't matter. It still goes through, and there seems to be no recourse.
That's the extent of it. And we're finding that thousands of employers across the country put hundreds of thousands of employees who are on a temporary leave of absence. They mark them as being dismissed for misconduct, which is not only criminal offenses in mass, but those people are supposed to be paying EI premiums during that time period. So they're depriving the pot of collectively hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars that are supposed to be paid during that whole mandate time, on top of depriving people who are entitled under law.
Before we move on to what happened at the court case, the one thing that I think, but it happened before, but that has come to people's attention, and more people should be appalled by it. We talked about this a little bit last time, Matt. Maybe Dale can chime in on this, is that there is a switch that happened during COVID in the mandates, and this is it. an employer is now in charge of telling you what you can do with what you have to do with your body to remain employed. And that is a massive jump and a huge paradigm shift, and actually moves you kind of into, I wouldn't use the term slavery, but some sort of prostitution. I mean, that's the
Mhm.
inherent problem why people are appalled by prostitution, is it's not about your work, it's about your body. And now we've made this switch in totality in our whole country into that realm where your employer is now in charge of your body and can dictate what you do with it. And that is a massive jump in autonomy.
Well, I like how you asked that question, but it turns out that was forced upon by the government. If you actually look deep in the rabbit hole, the government's trying to relieve responsibility of that. So they use the companies to force that
Yeah.
onto our bodies, and that way the government's not liable. So it's a very sneaky thing to do. It's no different than creating the pandemic and saying there's a virus out there, and they already know that they have the solution to it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a magic trick. Like look over here, and then we're going to do this. So even though the company is doing it, it's the government forcing them to do it. And then when you go for liability, like, oh, we didn't do that. I mean, look how many times Trudeau said one thing and then later denied, oh, we never forced anybody to take the shot. We never forced anybody to lose their job.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
it was all lies. But yet the internet, which sometimes can be the greatest tool, has the history of all that, and you can see that. And I've seen some great people put videos together showing what happened in 2022, 20 to 2022, and then later he says, no, I didn't do any of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
and now he's not even Parliament anymore, and any repercussions to him? No, he's still walking the streets.
No, and in fact, he's in Hollywood now, and that's where he wanted to be all the time, right? He never wanted to be a politician. He always wanted to be a star.
Right. But think of how much money he stole from Canadians. Think of all the corruption that he's done and all, and
Not not
lawsuits
just
out there,
for
and they all disappear somehow.
and not just for Canadians now, but Canadians for generations to come, right? And here's the biggest thing is that, and Andre and I talked about this yesterday, of once, for me, it happened probably almost 20 years ago, but for some people it's happening now, is you were raised as a Canadian, and I think most Canadians didn't mind paying taxes to help another person out. We're very nice people, almost to the point of absurdity. And you realize either you don't get medical help or you don't get EI, or you realize when you're disabled, there's actually nothing for you in terms of disability. And that one crack seems to dissolve the whole view of what the Canadian social safety net actually is. And once it's gone, I feel like particularly people my age and older, it really dissolves part of who you thought you were.
Right.
Yeah.
There's another, so we bring that up. I remember that they said that there would be a slush fund for anybody injured by the vaccine. I think it was $75 million. That seems like a lot of money. But I've watched interviews with other people, and nobody's accessed that money.
Yeah.
Even today.
Well,
and yet many people have been paralyzed and all kinds of things, and yet they make you jump through hoops to get this money, and people still haven't got it. So again,
right.
there's
And it's
another
actually
fallacy.
it's actually not that much, right? So if you think about, there's 40 million people in Canada now, apparently everybody that steps foot is instantly able to access all these benefits. But so my friend's niece was paralyzed from the waist down after vax. They knew it was from that. So nobody told them that there is that bank of money there, and B, it's got a cap per person. So 75,000 is great, but when you look at a 9-year-old that is going to need assistance for the rest of their lives, even $1 million is not going to cover that bill.
Right. Right. And I remember too at the time when they were forcing the vaccines on everybody, they were moving all these Ukrainians in here. And if you remember, none of them have to be vaccinated. Some reporter revealed that, and all these people could come in and not have to take any vaccines, whether it was that vaccine or childhood vaccines. That's again where it was a fallacy.
Yeah, and I think that's where the rule of law, people are really feeling like it's no longer worth pursuing. And I guess why I have respect for people who still are trying to is we can clearly see there's a set of rules for them up top, and for us, and for new people or certain groups of people where you are allowed to do things that we won't be allowed, the general populace wouldn't. So I think that's kind of what we're seeing now, because I feel like there's a lot of people too who lied about their vaccine status and have also gotten away with it, that were up top that said they did, because they can play the games and produce the documents that, let's say, that we couldn't. So I just want to go over that. So you're a long-standing, you're an employee in good standing, you've been there for a long time. You started because you were aware, watching these little policies that weren't little come in and be put in there without maybe people understanding the magnitude of it. You tried to call people out. From what I understand, you refused to disclose or get the vaccine. You were laid off. And in that layoff, the code that they used on your record of employment prohibited you from being able to access the social safety net that you've played into for 30 years and never accessed. You have been denied. And then the process, which seems to be the punishment, has been going on for all these years now, and you've not been able to find a process that actually works for the employee, you, that is just for everyone. And in pursuing that, you've had to represent yourself, and that's where Matt comes in. Matt's been your legal assistant.
Correct. He's invaluable. Everybody should have a Matt.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And so, and thousands of hours, Matt and I talked about this last time. So you guys have dedicated thousands of hours, and it's brought you to, on February 25th, you actually went to court self-represented. Let's start from there. So maybe Dale, you want to take that, and Matt can fill in some of the gaps.
Okay. Can you repeat what the question you want me to say though?
So what happened at court on February 25th?
Okay. So on February 25th, we showed up, and prior to that, we asked to have a 2-day hearing because we had so much information to share with, to put on record and to show, because we were not allowed to have, we had many pages for written arguments, and we had to knock that down to 30. So we knocked that down to 30, so that means we had to exclude some stuff. So now we want to have a 2-day hearing. So we were told, no, you can do it in 2 hours. But if you do it in 2 hours, I only get an hour. So we appealed that. So they allowed us to have 3 hours, which means we can now only have 90 minutes. So now we have to figure out how to get all that information into 90 minutes. So we were...
So just before we go on, did you feel like that was a real thing? Because Matthew and I talked about this last time when he was on, of it's absurd, right, to present a case in that long, in that amount of time. They changed it just before, and it was seeming like that wasn't actually so much a real thing as a tactic to shut you down
Correct.
or limit you, let's say. Let's say it was a limiting tactic.
Correct.
Okay. Keep going.
So,
Sorry, I just want to make sure that this is clear on the process.
so what we did was we wrote down our oral argument and we asked the court not to ask any questions during the time that I read that. And I read that argument in about 80 minutes, and they stayed silent and then only asked one question at the end. So I was able to give the oral arguments, put all this information out there, and in the end, they asked one question, and then went on break. Now, when they come off break, we expected that the Attorney General was going to defend our arguments, and the judges would not allow the Attorney General to speak. They said they already rendered a decision. When they rendered a decision, basically they just worded other decisions where I'm sitting there and I could almost mouth the words they were saying. They actually used some of the court cases that we already debunked, and then my court case was dismissed. I was told I
So
lost.
they had a decision even before you, sorry, let me put it back to this. So they had a decision in mind, prepared before you even showed up.
They must have, because their decision was similar to a couple others that me and Matthew had found and listened to.
Matthew, do you want to expand on that? Because you and I had talked about that being in their profile of a cut and paste.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you expand a little bit more on that? And were you prepared for such things to happen right there? Because holy cow, like what a waste of time for you guys in a lot of ways if they already knew what they were gonna do. Like it just seems like another process of limiting exhaustion, right?
Yeah. I was hoping it wouldn't come to that, but it honestly doesn't surprise me that that's what happened. So we had to chop out half of our arguments to make it fit in
Mhm,
that time limit. The first half was all the legal issues. What does the law say? What was done? What is the case history? That sort of thing. And the
mhm,
other half, which we had time to present, was on the different processes that were engineered, but they were specific processes that only applied to these so-called mandate misconduct cases to hundreds of thousands of people. And these new processes were forced on the decision makers. So we said, we don't have time to cover it all. We'll deal with the back half and we'll leave all the statutory analysis, like of the law and the history, out because it's really important, but it's also not the thing that I think catches people's attention, although it's very serious.
And do you think judges in a court case like this would be actually interested in that on their own?
Yeah, they weren't. I think part of the
Uh,
problem is there is no response. The moment you open that box, you have to deal with the issues that are being argued and they're appealable. Like the only question they asked was, so Mr. Arnold, if what you're saying is true, you're mentioning a bunch of cases that came from this court. You know we're bound by them, right? So what do you want us to do? That was the only question they asked. And then they went on extended break. They came back and just repeated the same answer as everybody else. But I think to stick it, they changed the order of the cases. They had used the same template, for lack of a better word, to dismiss a lot of these cases. And we actually had 7 or 8 of those people sitting behind us in the room at the time.
mhm.
And we had actually focused on 2 of them, Sachetto and Lance, in detail and totally debunked how those were very problematic cases they couldn't rely on. When they read their bench decision, which did not touch the merits, they actually changed the order of the cases in their decision and put Lance and Sachetto first,
Mm.
which is a different order than everybody else when they're sitting right behind us. It's almost like they're like sticking it, right?
Mhm.
So we're challenging reconsideration on that, saying that our case from the beginning has been simple. The law says you have to do the just cause test. It was done hundreds of times before the pandemic. That's all we're asking. Do the just cause test. If we're denied, we're denied. And of course, they won't touch that because part of the just cause test is looking at whether the employer acted contrary to law or changed the contract. So they just pretended that this law by Parliament that was done hundreds of times before the pandemic, which would collapse EI during the pandemic, oh, we'll just pretend that section of the law isn't there.
So the integrity of the court is not there. Integrity the whole way is not there. So how do you have faith in this system? And what Matthew, the word he was trying to use is called mocking. They were mocking the people behind us. Also, if I hadn't heard their decisions, I might have broke down or been emotional when they read it, but inside I was like laughing in a sense, like, you guys look so foolish. You look, how do you accept yourself as judges when you're just reading something already predisposed that was all made up during this whole time, all based on a law that's not in place. So, as much as I walked out of there sad, it's like, okay, we're going to go to the next level. But will these people lose their jobs? No. Will anything happen to those judges? No.
Yeah, that's the
This is
problem really with everything. And we talked about this on my podcast yesterday, is that is uh, is that there's never any consequences. It's interesting to me that oh, why is that doing that? It's interesting to me that that all these precedences, and Matthew and I talked about one in a criminal case uh, before, about a man that was convicted in the late 80s of killing his two adopted sons by means of arson. And everybody knew early on that the arson expert's testimony was flawed, but they had to go through. And even then, so what we're talking about here is precedent. And nobody seems to give a shit whether the precedent is solid or not, just that it's there. It's that weird thing of, we're going to do that because that's what they did before us, even if it's flawed. And that's when you see the difference in a legal system versus a justice system. And there is no justice in this system. There's just an escalator ride of ongoing shitty precedents that everybody knows is flawed, but there's such cowardice and lack of leadership that they're just going to keep doing what they do and then hide behind it because there's never any consequence. And Andre and I talked about this, about rebuilding the families. Like, we need to start putting in place some sort of institutional justice. To say that it's a crime to fill out the ROE. So I'm sorry, it is actually on silent. Anyway, I'm sorry about that. To fill out the ROE can be a criminal thing. Same with Sun Life and insurance forms, where the employer purposely tanks the insurance claim. It's supposed to be wrong, but we caught my husband's employer doing that, and there actually is no lawyer, no RCMP, no criminal defender that is going to actually take up that case, right? Nobody is going to punish an employer for filling out an ROE wrong or purposely wrong.
right. The same as the judges. They have all the power.
Mm-hmm.
So even though you think, I feel like, well, I'm nuts, I'm insane to even go to this level, because I know I'm just going to lose, because they must be right. Even when you read their decisions, I got another decision, and when you go line by line, word by word, and you read it, it sounds legit. It sounds like I lost. And then when you read the cases that they put in and the footnotes and everything else, like, this doesn't even pertain to me.
Yeah.
So you, on paper, it looks great that for them, and then when you actually go through it, it's like, this isn't my case. This doesn't even pertain to me. So that's where the fallacy is. That's where we're trying to keep holding them to the fire and say, you know what, we're not going away. You haven't proven anything to us that I've lost. We've proven everything to you that I should win or be, or at least, like Matthew said, do the just cause analysis. And they just want to keep hoping I go away. And I'm not going away. Matthew's not going away.
Yeah.
And we're going to go to the next level until we win. But again, they have the power, and will we ever win? I don't know. But we're going to keep exposing them.
Yeah, and Dale, I wanted to take a minute too, and I did this with Matthew, and for the listeners that are listening, I want to say this too. Behind all these court cases that show up there with justice system, which seems to be more like a corporate cabal or perhaps a government corporate cabal, is the little people like me and you who have paid into these services as Canadians for 30 years, depending on that they're going to be there, paying into insurances that are mandatory through corporations, thinking, okay, well, if I become temporarily disabled or long term, that it's going to be there for me. And you know what? The vaccine injury one is just uh, another system that's not going to work for the people that we're all going to pay for, right? All it's going to do is maybe make more jobs for the government of a bureaucracy that's never going to work properly. Um, and so there is thousands and thousands of people like Dale, and it's not just a denied claim, it's a loss of people's homes, it's a loss of people's stability, it's a loss of people's retirement income. It is for me, I'm actually considered a disabled person. My husband has solely taken on that finances, despite the fact that we've paid into it for 40 years. You know what I mean? It's, to me, it is actually insane the amount of people that are let down by these programs that we've paid thousands and thousands for. We just did our taxes, and I said to my husband, do you feel like you got $70,000 worth of services just for this year? Now,
Right.
times that by 30, do you feel like you've got millions of dollars worth of services? Because neither one of us have ever been eligible for EI, and you know, and it turns out that that's purposeful.
Right. Now, if you look at so many things, you pay your taxes, but if you look at behind the curtain, fees are taxes, licenses are taxes,
Yeah.
all these things. Then they take out EI, and I have to pay it, right? My employer will not let me not take it off my paycheck. Then when I
That's right.
need it, if they don't give it to me, well, behind the curtain, that's just another tax. It's just more money they took off me. And same with CPP. When I go to apply for my Canada pension, if I don't get that money for some reason, well, then that's money they collected off me and got to keep. It's just another tax, right? How I can't stop paying into those unless I become self-employed. But are they going to? Can I stop paying those now? You're not giving it to me anyway, so why do I got to keep paying into something that I'm going to be denied for? That's robbery. You're stealing my money.
And businesses are being extorted, right?
But we just accept that.
Businesses can't operate if they don't take that money off the top of their paycheck. So it's not like
Right.
you don't have a choice. The business doesn't have a choice either. They can't even
Yeah.
operate daily if they don't take that money.
Yeah.
2% of every
Well,
dollar.
every prison has to have guards. Not all of them are there because they deem to be. You even look at some of those concentration camps, and I'm talking like the Dutch ones all the way up. At some point, there's so little bad guys, I guess you would say, that that they coerce some of the prisoners into helping suppress their own people, right? And I think that's what we
Yeah.
see with the employers. And to me too, one thing that people don't know about EI is that it's not like they take EI off your check and then EI goes right over here and then gets all paid out towards people who need EI. It goes into a big slush fund. And I know that they have all these policies of we promise to put this much EI into EI, but they don't talk about how much the bureaucracy costs versus how many people actually receive the benefits. And in some ways, one of the reasons why they've put policies there is EI had become a slush fund where they were taking the money and not paying it out, right?
Yeah. Well, there's active litigation going on for that happening with CPP and WSIB. I would
Right.
not be surprised. I mean, there's a bit of history to EI where after the financial collapse in 2008, they were forced to update the laws because there was legitimate allegations that over $1 billion had disappeared.
Yeah.
And that's part of where they got stuck because that law had to be changed in 2009 or 10 that prohibited taxpayers just paying for EI, like to compensate for the difference. When you're looking at 500,000 people collecting and $13 billion being paid out in just a few months, it's going to collapse the program. And they can't just go and take the money from somewhere else and bring it in, which is why you've
Yeah.
got to create this entirely new decision tree that you have to coerce decision makers to follow. Otherwise, you
Yeah.
collapse the program.
And it also tells you that from before 2009, the program was poorly thought out, poorly implemented, and now is even more poorly. I don't. Come on, Matt, help me out with some grammar here.
Poor.
Worser is my one of my kids. It's worser than it ever was, right? And same with CPP. What I always tell people, especially at my age and up, if you think you're getting CPP, you're out to lunch. You're not getting nothing, or it'll be so little as to be not worthwhile, right? That's why we have RRSPs, which is headed down the same road too. It's interesting to me, and part of my, I just want to say this here too. Part of my channel is about responsibility, and it's terrible that the government takes our money for programs we'll never have. But it is our responsibility now, knowing this, to make sure we are in strong communities and we're caring for our elderly and we're planning in whichever way you think is wise for your inevitable termination or your inevitable old age, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's unfortunate because all that money that Dale has paid in and my husband and I have paid in is lost now.
Yeah,
Right.
they're back of napkin. They spent roughly $300,000 trying to fight just our case alone. In 30 years, he paid more than he would have got paid out substantially. And they're going to take a third of a million taxpayer dollars trying to deny paying out something that he's already prepaid.
Yeah.
So the fact,
Yeah.
now scale that out times what, you got 25, 30 million people paying CPP every year and
Well,
20 million paying EI.
my husband said the other day, oh, they're just legal mobsters, right? Going around collecting money to protect you from themselves, sort of thing. It's like you don't actually get anything out of it. It's just a shakedown.
Yeah. It's a mafia.
Problem is
Hmm.
we can't let them get away with this, right? That's what they're hoping. We're focusing on EI just because that's what we have the evidence and we have the standing to do something about this. But there was a whole litany of crimes and other issues that happened during the pandemic. And if we just walk away and let this stand, the
Hmm.
next time is going to be far worse. We
Hmm.
cannot let that happen.
Hmm.
I think all of us, whatever it is we
Agreed.
can do, we've got to push back and at least make it clear that we're not going to just go silently into that good night.
Right. Agreed. So it must have been a real letdown then, Dale, to the amount of preparation that you and Matt had done to show up there. I mean, at first you thought you had a couple of days, then through this limiting process of clearly a power move, like you have no power here, just solidifying that before you even show up, allowing you to spend the time knowing they had already rendered a decision, that it was a cut and paste for the guy behind you too that's showing up. You're going to keep going. To me, to me, that says a lot about your character. And I want to say this online here, that no matter what happens, and Matthew and I were talking about courage and bravery and fortitude before we went online. I just want you to know, lose or win in a corrupt legal system, nobody can take away the fortitude now and the courage and the bravery that you guys are presenting, right? You won't get the time back, but you'll know that. And that story lives with you and your community. And I think in some ways now, with the disintegration of our of this society, we can still carry those stories forward. And and really, I just want to touch on that because that's a lot of what my channel is the stories of bravery, how and fortitude and resilience that we carry forward next, that have nothing to do with the unjust government, but just ourselves, our character. Nobody gets to rob us of that. And that's really the human side of all this process, right? Is that story.
Right. And well, a person of integrity is one who can't be divided by himself. I have a strong sense that I've been wronged and I want it corrected. I'm not going to just fold and give up knowing that I did nothing wrong. Another thing is too, I feel that me and Matthew have been planted here. When you think about seeds, all the seeds that kept being planted from over 4 years ago to today are now growing to where we are now. I didn't expect this. I didn't even look at seeds of the things that I went through 4 years ago thinking, okay, this is where I'm going to be at the federal court level still arguing this, and now hopefully get heard by the Supreme Court to continue to argue this. I wasn't thinking that 4 years ago. I was thinking, well, how am I going to get my EI? Two, how am I going to get my job back? How's the union going to support me? What are they going to do? You know, I paid it no different than I paid in CPP. I was at Purelator before we even had a union. Our union is Teamsters. Call them out. Teamsters. They're supposed to be this big ass union. You know, you see them in movies and everything. They fight, 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 and then all of a sudden this comes and they fold. They do nothing. And yet I paid union dues from day one, again, for over 30 years. And 4 years later, I'm still out in the street. This is not right. So there's
the unions were reckless.
Two systems, the union and the EI system, both not helping the citizens that I paid into. That's my money. So can I do this whole podcast again on Teamsters? You bet your butt I can.
I would do that with you if you wanted to, Dale, because I saw a lot of that corruption too. And 30 years ago, I would have been raw unions. I belonged to a few, and now I think they're a waste of money. They're clearly now part of the cabal.
Right.
Yeah. I think we've forgotten history too, and we're not teaching it to our youth. Because if you look back at the history of unions, it goes back to the, I'll say early 19th century, early 1800s. They were formed by the same sort of groups that are now globalist institutions today.
Right.
So
or the
we're expecting
NDP.
them, to
Yeah.
help us. NDP in Canada, yeah.
No, yep. Completely formed by unions. The unions made their own political party. I had no idea until I learned that in history. Okay, so you show up there. That must have been really nerve-wracking, Dale. That must have been hard because they make going to court, even the atmosphere, you small, you weak. It sounds like they pre-set it up that you were going to feel limited and already disenfranchised from the process, and that that the scope of your presentation would also be limited, and that they already had their decision rendered, it seemed like. So, man, that must have been really demeaning when you left there.
Of course. When
Yeah.
well, I was nervous going in there. Again, every action they do, we can react, whether it was that day or in the future. It can be all part of our appeal process that we weren't given a fair hearing. That and it's funny how we would send emails to the court saying, well, this is already precedent. We are asking for this.
Mhm.
To the point where we're getting emails back saying, I'll give you an extra hour and that's it, and it's the last time I want to hear about this. And you will not be given a minute more. Like, we're trying to be nice, but there is court law or precedent set that you can ask for certain things. And Matthew's researched all this, and again, that's where he's been a big help. And so when I went into the court case, we already had a plan, which is for me to read the oral submissions, and they allowed me to do it. But for them to deny the Attorney General to even defend even one of our arguments shows that they already won. They didn't want, if they defend one of our arguments and we prove them wrong, right, that opens a door to a bunch of stuff. So by them not allowing him to speak, by them not asking me more questions, by them already saying we've already rendered a decision, and we asked them, to look at our written arguments also, which I've done every time along the process. Are you going to look at my written arguments? Yes, I'll look into those too. Well, along the way, if they clearly had, they would see that we've already debunked all their decisions, and now we have to do it again.
Right.
So emotionally, yeah, it gets to you. It's upsetting. At the same time, it's like, well, if you expect something, but if you expect something, then you handle it a little better. That's what I've found. Because I can be very sarcastic, and so inside I'm kind of laughing, and I wanted to stand up and say, "Are you kidding me?" I wanted to make it and I said to Matthew, I have to be careful because I might start laughing, or if they start asking me stupid questions. And he says, "Don't do that." And I'm like, but that's my character. And inside, so I held it back with a reasoned decision. I'm laughing inside. And I'm thinking, you got to be kidding me. But every decision that gets made along the way, and every time I get to represent myself in front of them, somehow is making me stronger and more fearless. Like, you still haven't hurt me. And as long as they keep giving me avenues to appeal, and as long as they keep giving me avenues to appeal, nothing's been stopped. You only quit you only lose when you quit. We haven't quit, so we haven't lost yet. Because there's still another door to open to get our case heard.
Too.
Right. So can you tell me about? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Matthew. Sorry.
I was going to say, I think it's important that this is the fourth time this case has been dismissed.
Yeah.
It's the first time the court did it. It was dismissed 3 times before by the tribunal, but
Mm-hmm.
every time they dismiss it, they're violating some sort of rule. So we keep appealing. We keep asking for
Mm-hmm.
reconsideration, and we're not stopping, because as long as there's a mechanism to keep this alive, we have to keep doing it, because we're exposing more and more about,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, the lack of justice in the so-called justice system. And yet
Mm-hmm.
we have legal avenues to continue. So I think we need to keep going. As long as there's some sort of avenue to reconsider or appeal, we have to keep doing this until there's no more left.
So you guys are going to go forward with an appeal. Here I'm just showing you guys, you have a great website. It's well laid out. I strongly recommend people come take a look. And also, I'll link our former interview, which was a solid 3 hours that Matthew and I did, going through some more of the information about the original claim, like what actually happened, where the policies were put in place, kind of underhandedly in a lot of ways. And then sorry, take this one off. Yeah, and people can look at that or your website, which is, as I just showed it, and I'll actually put up the website here. I like what you're saying about going forward. I mean, it'll be thousands more hours, so you'll take on this appeal. So what would be different about this next portion, right? Of it. So the appeal process to me is like you go to these judges and then you go to these judges, and then if they don't like that, you take it to these judges and these. Is that right, or can you explain a little bit more about what will be different about the next process? Will it just be, the obtuse people sitting in power, or or what?
So just as regards time, most of the research is done. Like, we have 180 pages of arguments, which is 360 paragraphs and 250 footnotes. That hasn't changed. They've been
Okay.
ignoring it all the way. So each time
Mm-hmm.
we're taking an action, we're able to go back and draw from that.
Mm-hmm.
So we have two options. There's in the federal court, you can ask for reconsideration. Now, it's a high bar, but you can't re-argue something you've already argued. But if you can show how, look, there's something that's fundamental that was missed, or the reasons that you gave in your decision don't actually match the issues, then you
Mm-hmm.
can file for reconsideration from the same court, which is what we're doing. Right? We're saying from the beginning, we've always been just asking for the just cause analysis to be done. We proved how it was done hundreds of times before the pandemic, and they did not even put the words just cause in their short, 5-page decision that was cookie cutter from the last 10 EI cases. So we're filing for reconsideration, saying, look, if you're going to dismiss our case, the only thing we were arguing you didn't even mention, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
separate to that, we have the Supreme Court appeal, where we're saying, look, the decision they made is manifestly wrong, because all of these things were presented and they turned around, and it's laughable. They're using cases like Lance and Suchetto to dismiss our case, when we literally spent about 12 to 15 minutes talking specifically about Lance and Suchetto, how they weren't usable in these scenarios, and they're going to turn around. And so we're appealing that too.
So in your presentation, one of the things we talked about last time and is coming up this time is that just trying to debunk the past precedent, which is clearly wrong and cookie cutter and placed there to be limiting, not necessarily to be legally sound, right? Then when you go forward, you're going to keep hammering that home, right? That the precedents that you're basing this on is not sound
Yeah,
legal precedent. Mm-hmm.
it's been like
So,
that. Go ahead.
oh, sorry. One thing we haven't mentioned in this interview so you'd have to watch the past interview, is about the BE memo. So for people to understand, there was the EI law. There were rules to follow. When the pandemic happened, a BE memo was issued to EI employees to deny thousands and thousands of Canadians EI for the reason Matthew said was that EI would collapse if they paid out all these people.
Yeah.
That's where the precedent is now. The precedent now is to deny people. It doesn't matter whether you qualify or not. They have a process to deny people through templates and through a BE memo. We haven't mentioned that in this interview because I know you talked about Matthew in the last interview. But just to refresh people's memories, that's the precedent now. The precedent now is to deny people when they have a misconduct on their ROE. I also like to say to you, Limina, you have a lot of followers. For your followers, if somehow they can share this interview, share our website, and just tell one person, especially the ones that were denied, we need to get this out there. And you taking the time to interview us means so much. I'd love to give you a virtual hug.
Thank you.
You're welcome. This means so much to us to have people listen to our thoughts, to hear our voice, and to present our case, because this has affected so many people. There are no podcasts out there explaining the EI process. We have podcasts, a couple that we've done, and we love those people so much, just like we love you taking the time to do this. But there's no other Matthew and Dale out there talking about the EI process and how they were denied and everything else. That's us. That's where I'm saying about these seeds were planted 4 years ago, not even knowing how it was all going to blossom to what we're doing now. And for you to take the time of your day to do this with us, we really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. Because I'm actually really interested in this because I'm actually going up against the Alberta government and the University of Alberta here. And I'm 2 years into my fight with them. And what I found is that people aren't really interested. They don't really get why selling your government or using your government's data that you provide for research is a big deal. Or if they do, they feel apathetic about it or what have you. So one of the reasons is I've had a hard time getting people on side for my thing as well. And I think we all have to, even if mine's not an EI thing, we have to support each other because there's so little avenues to hold these assholes to account. It's criminal what has been done over the last years and the amount of power and the little say and the amount of robbery. And we pay for all this. We pay for them to screw us. And I think that the injustice in that, like you, for me, I just cannot sit idly by. Even if I don't win and I'm just a thorn in their side, it kind of gives me I'm kind of like you, Dale. Makes me smile a little. It's like, oh, did I ruin your day? Too fucking bad. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. So okay. So you're going forward with two prongs. You're going to look at the federal court and you're going to ask for a what is it called? Sorry again. The
reconsideration.
Reconsideration, right? Okay, but the crux of your arguments are the same. You're asking them to actually look at them then this time, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's from the very beginning. We have always been pointing out just cause. And from the beginning, just cause has never been addressed, not just in our cases, but every time it was raised, it was never addressed. And that's what we're trying to show is that the law hasn't changed, and we have 6 years of history showing the law was followed. That's all we're trying to do is, hey, if you're going to deny us with just cause, go ahead. But you can't just rewrite the law in secret and overrule it just because it's inconvenient. And all we're looking for is talk about it in your decision. Give us something to appeal. The idea that you're going to engineer these processes that span multiple agencies and multiple bodies that clearly are compelling people to break the law to avoid, but it's actually very simple. I think it's telling, right?
Well, yeah, and it definitely speaks to, once you get into a precedence model too, of why they really want to keep it out, because then there's a precedent for the next Mattindale that comes along, right? And that's the unfortunate things on both sides, is you feel like they're not responding just to your argument, they're responding to future arguments, unfortunately, and in some sort of protected, like the protectors of this system, you know. So we
Right.
heard that, right? Get vaccinated, protect the healthcare system, we protect your community, protect grandma. It's all protectionism now of a failed system.
You know, I just thought of something else too, as you guys are speaking, is that if there's somebody listening to this interview right now and they're a lawyer or some kind of educator that could help us
Mm,
in a way that there's something that we're not looking at to educate us in any of this, in this case,
mhm,
to help us, you know, how's the word, to see something that we're not seeing,
mhm.
that will
Yeah.
make the judges stand up and go, you know, you're right. You, instead of them keeping denying us on policies, that we can explode this somehow, and I guess win the case is the end result. But there's a lot of people out there that may have gone through this also, or they've been in the legal system because they're lawyers or whatever, and they know the game that's being played, and somehow they can give us advice. That would be great too.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's great. So I put the same thing out for mine too. So looking for legal help. I mean, it sounds like you guys would even take like a legal assistant just to help with some of the legwork, okay? Mm. We're coming to the end of our time, but I actually want to really leave it again on the public interest letters. So could we go over that? So how people like myself and others watching can support you guys in an actionable way. So not be saying, oh, Matt, I really think you're great. We all think you're great, Matt, but that's not going to help you in front of this court.
Yeah.
And we also think you're great too, Dale. Let's talk about these public interest letters. So there's a certain section actually on your on your website called public interest letters. We talked a bit about them last time. So can you talk a little bit more about what they are and how they help?
Yeah. So this is really going to be uh, what our case will rise or fall on in the long run. Um, because we're now at the Supreme Court level, one thing that has to be said is the Supreme Court only takes about 100 cases a year. They've never
Okay.
taken a specific EI case. They did take an employment related case in 1998 because it was about systemic issues called Rizzo. From the beginning, we have structured our case as a systemic case. And if you want the Supreme Court to even consider it, you have to prove how your case is in the public interest. And that's a fairly high bar. Now, from the legal standard, our case does meet that because we are addressing 15 errors that were structured across multiple federal agencies that compelled decision makers to break the law. So it meets it. What we need to prove to the courts is that you need to take this case, because if it's just us, they're going to keep dismissing it until there's no more appeal left. There are 500,000 people who were destroyed by this. Most of them don't even realize what happened because of all the censorship. There's 20 million Canadians that pay into EI. We have a strong voice. If even a few thousand people took the time to send these pre-written letters to the court telling them, look, we're Canadian citizens, we pay into EI, we value the system. Can you please do the right thing?
And I
Yeah,
really like what you say here too, is engineered injustices must never be permitted to become precedent. And so what you're saying here is there's people behind this that can campaign with you, but if we allow this to become precedent, this isn't going to be the only injustice of this type.
no, no. I mean, I think the millions of lives were destroyed during the pandemic in different ways. We're
Yeah.
just in EI because by providence and by situations, we're able to prove what happened in EI.
Mm,
And we can prove it. Like, this is an open and shut case. That's why nobody wants to touch the merits of our
mm,
case, is because
mm,
we can prove they engineered processes in secret that force government decision makers to break the law on their behalf. It's open
mm,
and shut, and it 500,000 people.
mm,
What we need is Canadians to take. It takes less than an hour of time. It's just the cost of stamps. Send a
mm,
letter. They're already pre-written. They're going to the courts, they're going to the Attorney General's office who's defending the government, and they're going to Leadership and Employment Canada. Just highlighting, we're Canadian citizens. We value the EI program. We would
mm,
expect that they be upheld according to the law. Because that's the public interest part that the Supreme Court has to reckon with. If it's just
mm,
us going in there, I don't see a difference. If we can get thousands of letters coming from all 10 provinces arriving on the desks of the courts at the same time as
mm,
we're going through this, it's going to be a
mm,
lot harder for them to turn around and say, yeah, we're not going to hear your case, because legally it meets the standard. We need to put the public pressure on them that, yeah, the public interest part also meets the
mm,
case.
mm.
It's a
Is
lot
there any
harder.
benefit in also sending those interest letters just to your MP to start putting it on their radar? Or do you?
Yeah. So one of the letters, so again, on the website, they're pre-written templates. If you want to add
Okay,
your own to them, you can, but they're already
okay,
pre-written. One of them is going to MPs, and
yep,
we have a standing request from the Conservative caucus. If you have a Conservative MP, definitely make sure they get a copy. They actually
mm-hmm,
ask, if you're in an urban riding, bring the paper in by hand. You don't have to,
oh,
but they're processing it different. And if
mm-hmm,
you have a non-conservative MP, you can actually mail this letter into their nearest conservative MP as well.
mm-hmm,
But this is important. It doesn't just go to the MPs, it has to go to the courts too.
mm-hmm,
We spend a lot of time looking. There's 8 different people in the government this goes to, and each one of them is fundamental to how this plays out.
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm,
it doesn't, I mean, if you're going to print out 9 pieces of paper versus printing out one and putting 9 signatures instead of one, you're talking an extra 30 seconds of time. But it makes a
mm-hmm,
profound difference because you're putting more agencies on notice and specific people
mm-hmm,
in those agencies who have an obligation under the law to do the right thing.
mm-hmm,
So when they're getting letters from the public saying, look, we know you didn't start the scandal, but you're now the ones who by law have to clean it up. And we're
mm-hmm,
showing you this, you need to do your job. And if you don't do your job, we're watching. And it's opening up liability, right? Every time that this is not happening.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's a small amount that people can do. I mean, I don't want to beat this horse to death, but you guys have spent thousands of hours, and it looks to me like step one, download templates. You could optionally make them your own. You can print, fill in the letters. You can optionally tell your own story, verify, sign and mail them in. Let you guys know also. You could visit your actual MP, but you don't have to. Although I recommend people do that, just especially rurally in smaller places where then you see them in the community and then
Mhm.
share with others. Those aren't a lot of steps. I think we estimated, Matthew, definitely under an hour. And what I would like to put out there to you guys that I would be willing to do, and I don't want to spring this on you, but I kind of am. What I was thinking as I looked through the public interest letters, and up here it said video to come. What I would love to do is have you back on where you take me through and I actually do the process where people can follow what I'm doing and we can actually put a precise time amount, and then people can actually just watch the video and do the same thing, send it off.
Sure. That would be
And,
definitely appreciated.
you would have your video, and then we could have it done, and then I would have it done, and people would have a template.
Yeah. Yeah, it's if you don't customize it with your own story, it's about 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay.
If you take the time to do it yourself, our goal is it had to be less than 1 hour and it had to be less than $10, because anything beyond that, it's putting more of an imposition on people. And it's less than $10 in stamps. That's the only cost. And again, it's 20 minutes, an hour is to actually, if you were denied EI yourself, take the time and put your story in our record. There's 500,000 of you out there. When these judges are going to deny our case, make them be looking at your story with your case number on it too. It makes it a lot harder for them to just dismiss it. And this
Yes, and
also sets the
for
stage.
those who showed up for the, what is that traveling one that's taking all the videos of all the problems that happened during that?
Sure.
Okay, I can't think of it now, and they're collecting videos of people who have been injured or forced
Oh,
out of
yeah,
the
I know
jobs,
what you
and
mean.
it'd
Yeah,
be,
the Vaxxed bus, the group that did the documentary Vaxxed.
it'd be interesting to have a compilation of videos too, like that can be put up and really put a human face to it, because there's also another side of that, of people that took a look and thought, I can't be bothered with this EI thing, I'm going to be denied even though I know I should be eligible, and walked away from it.
But if that's you, this is really important that you do this, because this is all in the public record. Every letter that gets sent through Canada Post, they have to document. So if you
Okay.
were denied EI, even if you chose to walk away because you didn't want to fight it, by
Mm-hmm.
sending in this letter with your name and your information on it, you are putting yourself on the record, which
Mm-hmm.
means when we get to the class action time.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh, you froze up, Matthew. Jump in, Dale.
Sorry about
When you
that.
get to when you get to the class action, Dale, tell me what's
It's
gonna
really
happen.
important.
Matthew, she's asking about the class action part again. Are you there?
He's froze up. Do you know about it, Dale?
Am I back?
Yes. Go ahead.
Am I back?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's going to be important because it shows there's government documentation with your name and signature on it saying that you were affected. And that's a really important part of class action, is you have to prove that you were one of the ones that were injured. So that makes it virtually impossible to deny standing if, when the class action time comes in a year or two, and you can actually say, look, I've got a letter that was sent to the Supreme Court and the Attorney General and the director at Employment Canada back in 2026, where I actually put my signature on a document saying this happened to me and here was my case number. That becomes very important for establishing not just the scope of the class action, but also the specific details about what happens inside it.
Yeah, it's to me, it's really interesting because we forget some of those old school ways that we can communicate that are actually more easily trackable and sometimes more legal, if that's a word. And we've lost sight of them. So far what we've said here, so to support Dale in his suit and Matthew in his support role of helping Dale, you can share this video get the word out there. You can definitely share the website. The website, I just got to tell everybody, is so full of great information and how-tos and better understanding of exactly what happened in a easily laid out process. You can watch our last video that I did with Matthew, where he really took us through everything of what happened in that process to have it come where Dale was denied, and then the steps that they've taken subsequently legally. I can't imagine the magnitude of effort it would take. It's taking you guys to get to this place. You know, the amount of time, the amount of learning, and just, you know, being different and stepping up and doing something a little different than what a lot of people do, which is walk away. And sometimes that's easier for your mind. So, you know, what the amount of emotional toll it would take on you guys. We've also gone through the public interest letters. Again, I'm going to do mine online, and then people can see how to do it. Maybe you can walk me through it. We could do something like that together to continue that. The effort that they're asking for people to do that are watching is about 20 minutes. That's not too much, and under $10. The last thing I want to leave us on is that time is money, right? You guys are showing up and you're doing a lot of legal efforts too, and there is a way for people to support you financially to give you that space, and you have a GoFundMe set up. Can you just talk about that lastly before we leave?
Yeah, we do. We don't advertise it because we don't want to be seen as just asking for handouts. We do have, I'll send you the link for it.
Thanks.
If people want to, they can donate, but I'll make this request. If we had a choice of 10 public interest letters going in or a $100 donation, we would take 10 public interest letters over the $100 every single time.
Yep. Okay,
Because
good. Yep.
the money is nice, but the money is not going to put pressure on the government to do the right thing. But yes, I will have the link in the chat in just a second here.
Excellent. I'll put that up as soon as it comes through. Lastly, Dale, I can't imagine the toll that this is maybe taken on you, but it sounds like what I really liked what you said is as it kind of becomes more comical, you seem to stand your ground a little bit more and feel the push to move forward. Tell me about the resolve you have to keep going.
Well, I've always been like this. I'm very competitive, whether it comes to sports or playing games, or you can ask my kids. Doing anything. I like to win, especially, you know, when I feel that I'm right for whatever cause it is. My resolve now is, and this is how I wanted to end this, was I started out putting in my EI claim thinking I'm just going to get EI like everybody else. And when I didn't and I was denied, that was very depressing because I'm not working. It took me 5 months to find a job, another job. And now 3 years, well, 4 years later, well, 3 years, I guess it took to find a better paying job and with more hours. So that's where I am now. But when I was denied and I was having a conversation with Matthew and he said he could help me, and I'm like, you can? He goes, yeah, I can help you. So he helped me through the appeal process. And at the time, I was just thinking about myself, trying to win this. Well, now 4 years later, we've gone through the appeals and the evidence that we've discovered, I realize to the level I am now, I'm helping other people. They might not realize this, but it's not about myself. I may never get that money that I'm owed, that I paid into. But this is now going to affect other people. It's now affecting other people, and it's going to affect their children too if we don't stop this. From what I learned from Matthew, we're the only case that's going through this process has got this far and is trying to end this precedent. If we don't end this precedent, it's going to continue to go on, and whenever the next pandemic or whatever thing the government tries to trick us into, and again deny us our money that they don't pay into, that I've paid into, and the employee or employer pays into, that's the only how that is funded. So the resolve now is not about myself anymore. It's about helping the other people that are dealing with this, and are the future people that are going to be dealing with, especially our children and our children's children. This is how bad this new precedent is, with the templates and the BE memo and the engineered processing. And hopefully people wake up to this and realize that when they may need it, and that somebody was out there already fighting for this, trying to end what was that's happened so far. That is Matthew, and that is me, together as a duo, trying to stop this engineering process that's going on. We're the ones trying to do this, and anybody who wants to climb aboard, awesome. We have resources. There's somebody else going to court that we don't know about, and we can help them to end it too. Great. But right now, as far as we know, it's just Matthew and I. And that's the resolve. The resolve is to help other people. And Matthew's that same way. You know, me and Matthew have heart-to-heart talks, and you know, it's not selfishness anymore. It's helping a community.
Yeah. And I really like that you're showing that it's counterintuitive. People that feel like that, you know, that they're going up against Goliath, they can feel depressed and they can feel apathetic at the beginning. But what I'm hearing from you is it's counterintuitive. You get stronger when you're battling for what's right. Even if you don't win, eternally you get stronger, and you take Matthews with you and communities with you, and you become a mentor for other people to do it. Matthew and I talked before you came on, and courage is contagious. So is fortitude, so is strength, and so is resilience. And I really just wanted to take a second to honor you guys about your dedication to this, but also that the story that you're laying out here is, hey, come on, step up. It gets better. It doesn't get harder. It gets better in you. Your community gets better. You make the world better.
Right. You know, you see posters of lemmings all following the crowd, and we're going against the crowd. I'm not going to jump off that cliff. I'm going the other way. It's like, hey, where are you guys going? We're going this way. You know, well, Matthew and I are two, arm in arm. You know,
sometimes
walking
the right thing
walking
is hard.
against the crowd.
Yeah, sometimes the right thing is hard, and I appreciate that, and you know, I appreciate the bond you guys must be cultivating too. There's things that win or not that I can clearly see that nobody will ever be able to take from you, that you've earned through this process. And we forget that. We forget that story that gets passed down for 7 generations of somebody that stood up. There's a reason we're still talking about David and his battle with Goliath.
Right. And you know, Matthew's mentioned this a bunch of times. Sometimes there's been divine providence where we had a phone call from somebody or an email, or we come across something. Sometimes I call them up and like, hey, I found this, would this help? And he researches it. Yeah, it will. And he's done that to me too. And somehow, why did we find this out? You know, it's all to help our case. And it's, you know, and sometimes I tease them about, you know, this would make a great movie. As you watch the movie like Painkillers or Dope Sick, you know, about opiate crisis. I'm like, we're doing the same thing. We're researching and we're finding stuff out that's supposed to be hidden from us by the government. And, none of it made sense to us why we keep being denied until we find out about the B memo and an engineered processes and the templates and everything. And for me to finally go to court, to the federal court level, and see that there, I don't want to say corruption, but us being denied there too, based on the same stuff that they're doing at the bottom level, is we already knew it. We already knew it because we've investigated it.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Matt.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel pretty honored that I've gotten to know you guys. I appreciate you coming on. I'm really hoping that people get some more of those public interest letters out, or share this video. Because even if it's not about EI, I think you're right in that this sort of process of driving people crazy or creating a lose-lose process for people trying to appeal things or even access any sort of legal justice. They're replicating this all over, where the process drives you nuts, right? The process
Right.
is so elongated that people drop out, and you're telling people, you know what, you actually do get something out of staying in it, and it's something personal in your character.
Right.
Absolutely. And
And
justice,
you're taking the time to interview us. This is your valuable time too. You could be doing other things, so we really appreciate that too.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I'm avoiding cleaning the chicken coop too, so it's not all totally altruistic. And of course, I've got a heart for anybody that fights the man. And I want to say that too. I'm in Ontario. I was just in Ontario, and I'm from Alberta. And the people that hated me out there were crazy. Definitely hate our premier. And it's nice to realize that it doesn't matter if you separate countries or what your politics are. We're all humans, right?
Yeah.
We need to meet on that level.
Yeah.
Right, Matthew?
yeah,
What's your last word?
justice comes to those who seek it. Justice doesn't fall from the sky. There's 500,000 lives that were destroyed just by this issue. There's 20 million people that pay into EI. We're just starting. Come join us. Let's fix this one. We can prove and fix the EI issue if we have enough Canadians on board. And what can that start? When you've got a Supreme Court case that proves what happened during the pandemic.
Right.
That opens a lot of minds. So that's it. Come join us. We're not done. This is just starting. There's an avenue here that people can join us.
Yeah, well, keep going, guys. I appreciate your time today, and we'll maybe think about looking at doing that how-to video together.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Take care.
All right. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye, everyone.
Well, this is another information filled session, but I'm really glad we did it. It's I really applaud Matthew and Dale for keeping going. I know that these processes can really be uh de-energizing, right? They can really sap you. You feel demoralized, especially when you go in and you put all this time and effort in and you realize you weren't really heard and they already knew what they were going to do before you got there. So I'm so thankful they're continuing. And I just want to say again, to get into those public interest letters off their website, it is an easy thing to do. 20 minutes, less than $10, help these guys out. And like they said, once you set a precedent, you're helping people down the road, generations to come. And I think the real template, though, here is that standing up doing what's right and fighting for the justice, you can never go wrong with it. You might lose in court, but you'll never lose anything in yourself. You're building your community that way. And I just really, really appreciate the effort here. So thanks for joining me today, everyone. Be well. Better yet, be brave.